thank you. Thank you for being here. My name is Oana Juncu, and I'm calling myself a business DJ that puts practices in place, whatever practices make people become proud of what they're doing. And I'm coming from France. And what I have learned is that whatever you do, whatever action you do, the main force or the only force is the intention. So my intention of today is presenting you how to design human systems. Human systems are also systems like other systems. But the true intention is how to rather create organizations as living systems instead of turning humans into robots. So rather turn organizations, robots like cause-effect, to a true living system, to create responsible, resilient, and reliable business place and society. You might say, well, maybe I'm an alien in a test conference. What am I doing on this topic? Well, the link that I'm a fan of testing because I think as humans, we live by testing. We call that experiments, though, in our real world. So we experiment, and then we learn, and then we test. So our mind is test-driven. To create living organization, that's something that always exists, not invented by myself, even I would have loved to. You know, those good ideas that you have you realize other smart people, smarter than you, already invented it. It's called mimicry, sorry. Well, it's well spelled, if I can't really spell it in English. So what's the story about today, about human system design? Every story starts with a creative tension. A problem. The problem of all organizations that they have an aspiration to something, but every change is perceived as a threat of a status quo. So they want to change, but in the same time, organizations we want to change. Let's put it on we. We want to change, but in the same time, we perceive that change as a threat. So the story here starts with this tension and will evolve to describe you how this creative tension can be happily designed to turn it in a thriving organizations that accept change. You know, we want to do automated tests. It's great, but we have so much business pressure, so we don't have time. And we have installed processes. So we have an aspiration, but we do business as usual. That's the tension. So how we can do that? How can we do thriving change? Now, I was talking about our brain. And I will start to answer this question, how can you do a thriving change? By a pattern. Because our brain loves patterns. We love to create patterns, to make fast decisions. We always say, oh, this is like that, and this is like that, and it works like that. So we create patterns. So I will start with a pattern, dear to our brain. The pattern is the Cynefin model that some of you might know, which is a systemic pattern for reality. But I would like to present it from a threat perspective. You know, change is a threat. That's called whatever it is. You might put it more nicely, but from our human perspective, change can be a threat. Exciting, but also a threat. So the Cynefin model that was defined by Dave Snowden has 4 parts and a nice V20, a nice way to slip from one part to another. On the right side are the simple and the complicated. the simple and the complicated systems. So the simple systems are those where things are obvious. Data is self-explanatory, like green lights, like icons that we are used to. So they are obvious. We have their best practices. That's the systems that are simple. They are the only systems that have best practices. Then we have the complicated systems. The complicated systems are those where we have rules and experts, because data is not obvious. So we have to apply some algorithm to understand the data. So we need experts to explain or to decrypt that data. Actually, I think that in IT, or not only in IT, even the 20th century industrial age is very much based on the fact that the world is not more than complicated. Everything can be a process, a linear process, and an algorithm. Cause, effect, cause, effect. So I call them robots. So simple, it's rigid. If the data changes, simple doesn't work anymore. Complicated, I call it robust. So always same input, same output. Same input, same output. Now, there's the complex quadrant. The complex quadrant, we come closer to what real life is. So complex and chaos are those unpredictable parts. In the complex world, there's resilience. And there's the world of pattern searching. And the practices are emergent practices. Where say, well, we can have patterns. You know, our brain is working by patterns because it's designed to evolve in a complex world. So we have emerging patterns that we might apply. And also we tend to put them in complicated and simple, because in simple, as I said, in simple and complicated, the level of threat is lower. And of course, we want to lower always our level of threat. So we want to move all our world in simple and complicated. But the not so good news, nevertheless an opportunity, is that the world is complex and it's an opportunity. What are the complex worlds? How can we deal and cope with complex world? Are the fractal systems. The fractal systems in nature that are resilient and elastic. We can always have the small piece, and we put the small piece is a whole, and if you add the pieces, you have another whole that is different from the parts. So this is in nature, but we always, as humans, we've already created complex fractal systems. The drawing is a drawing of a village in Africa, where all the houses are small villages, whereas an altar in the middle, and then all the houses of the family, and everything is growing. The village is growing like that. And in the photo, air photo, you might have recognized those that come from Netherlands and the other ones. This is a picture of Amsterdam, a very fractal, resilient city. So how we can design our resilient organization? Search patterns. Observe search patterns. It's like having a exploratory testing mind. Always make assumptions, search patterns, and create this organization when you are open to that. Observation. And while you do that, remember that you are a part of the system. So observe it from inside. How you can do it also is something that I would have liked that this example motivates you to say that we can create fractal systems and new patterns. Who knows what this number represents. Well, it's the number of possibilities of construction you can do with 8 Legos. So we can, if you have all this possibility with 8 Legos, just imagine how many possibilities of changing your organization we have with all the patterns that we create between humans. So we can build resilient organizations. So we love so much patterns that you might be surprised where we applied it. This is a book that is based was written by developers and used object-oriented development to create good dating patterns. So if you apply those, you will have a good date. So you as a testers are really counting on you to test if this developer have done a good job and if you have dates. It's a very funny book, by the way. Very funny, so I really recommend it. Now, having said that about the resilient organization that are searching for patterns, I would like to share with you or give you this gentle reminder: nature does not design for performance; it designs for resilience. It doesn't care for performance. And if our brains were to do fast decision, we create patterns to do fast decisions. It's not because our purpose is to, or its purpose is to be fast, but because you might need to make fast decisions to survive. So survival is the ultimate purpose. So nature is designed and life is designed for resilience, not for performance. So we can slow down. And a gentle warning in the complex world. When you create new patterns and emergent practices, this is a source of new cognitive biases. Because we will tend maybe to think that these new patterns are the truth of the world, not only our new emerging patterns. So, okay, on this left side, the level of threatening is escalating. From complex, the next and the last quadrant is chaos. Wow, that's the ultimate threat level. So, what is chaos? Chaos is when something happens and no practice is applied. It's called the way that you act with crisis is act, sense, respond. So the first thing that you do is you act upon something and then you see what happens. It's crisis management. And there's a shift from each system from one quadrant to another. So very, let's say, complicated systems, if not simple, can go into chaos if something happens. There's a very small picture there. That's a picture I took in, I think it was in Schiphol, Amsterdam airport, when the system of gating, going through the gate, I don't remember, went down. It was a huge mess. All the people crowded. So this is the chaos. No practices that we know apply. So we have to define new practices. So I was saying, well, this is interesting because I would like to link the chaos with the antifragile system, which are also living system. The nature is building new, more powerful, resilient system from chaos. What is called antifragile. Crisis is a source to become better. And you can see that in viruses. By example, Hydra is a good example of an antifragile system. You cut one head, she has two. And I was saying, why don't we inspire our organization to create them in an anti-fragile way? each crisis, each chaotic experience could be something that makes our organization grow. Once again, inspiration from Antifragile. Also, the brain works in an anti-fragile way, not only in complex. So, as I said, this was a tipping point. It's chaos and anti-fragile. How to turn threat into fearless exploration. So this is the threat. Let's focus on this type, anti-fragile, chaos. But at this level, as I was saying, the threat is very high. This is panic. So how we can say we create organization that grow and take advantage from chaos and we turn it in fearless exploration. Well, I turn back to my brain model. You know, our short memory has can store in 3 elements only. So I will try to tell you only 3 things. So the first one is state a purpose. The intention. The intention is the driving force. Or say, if you throw a purpose in the middle of a crowd, they will self-organize. We talk about self-organizing teams, etc. But what for? If the purpose is there, people can then cooperate or coordinate to create or to have thriving outcomes they will be proud of. And also creating what is called the overview effect. I don't know if any one of you is familiar with the overview effect. It's the effect of astronauts when they've seen the Earth from the space that gives an instant feeling of belongings of something greater than themselves, and they say that's the most beautiful image they've seen, very linked to it. So if we have a shared purpose that we contribute to something that we feel is greater than ourselves, then we can create a thriving organization. So try to create this overview effect in your team and create a shared dream. So to do this, the second is nurture a place of psychological safety. So what is a psychological safety? This is an expression that was defined by Amy Edmondson when she's a psychologist and she worked with Google a lot. Actually, she's done, for the record, her thesis, a PhD with Google. And she said a psychological safety place is that place where anyone can express a concern, an idea, a critic, without being threatened that he will be blamed or embarrassed or punished. So the definition is simple. How easy is to create that? I don't know. Just take a moment and think how psychologically safe is your organization and team. With this definition. Not very. Yeah. Very? Good for you. Yeah, congratulations. So, it was not a question. I thank you for answering. It was just a moment of reflection. But thank you for saying not very and very. I would have loved to know what did you do to create a very psychological safety organization. I'm not sure we have time, but I would like to share that with you. This is some hints on the next 2 slides, what I think is necessary to create a psychological safety environment. Hold the space for safe interactions. The first thing. And then create those interactions in a gaming way. Because everything we like to play. I'm doing a lot of references on brain, and actually we like to play. We learn by playing, and whatever we do, actually we play. We think ourselves of being serious if we're going to do our job, and if we have this code to code, this is serious, and we have this requirements to review, it's serious. But at the end, it's a game. It's a collaborative game, and a good game has three main rules. So this is of the theory game, that and you can find it in Janet McGonigal book, The World is Dead, I think. A game has clear rules, gives a sense of advancement. If we don't have a sense of advancement, we don't have fun when we play a game. If the rules are not clear, we don't have fun. What game would you like to play and the rules are not clear? It's not funny. And have a clear outcome to players. So if you can nurture a state where interaction have these rules of a good game, it's a prerequisite for nurturing a psychological safety. And the third thing that supports also psychological safety is encourage diversity. I was saying, when I'm saying that, I'm kind of asking, really? Do you really believe I'm just telling you that? This is something that it's so politically correct. Encourage diversity. Saying that it's not enough, because it's not diversity of skills, gender, skin color, ages. The most difficult thing is to encourage the diversity of thoughts. That people think differently and accept that at a certain moment time other people think differently. I was talking to HR people once, and I said, well, we always hire people that we like to work with given skills, soft, hard skills. What about hiring people that we don't like at all? We just don't agree with them. They usually can make organization thrive. And I have a quick story I would have like to share. There's an experiment in I think it's once again the Netherlands. I realize I have a lot of references from Netherlands. In the high school, one day organized. It's called Edu Scrum. So they organize classes in Scrum, Agile, whatever, and. That was not their intention, but they observed that the groups of students, of pupils, that were working together, and the teacher is a product owner. They wanted some pupils that have learning disabilities, because in this high school there are persons with learning disabilities, to come work with them in the team, in the class, and their group, and said, "Hey, this is interesting, because before no one wanted to work with them," and they said, "What happens? Why do you want them to work with you?" We said, "Well, as we are building the class, they are very challenging for us. We do understand if what we are building is good or not good. So diversity is challenging. So I'd like to share with you this model of organizational homeostasis, once again inspired by nature, which is, the nature of 4 elements. So homeostasis is the harmony between the 4 elements, so the nature can grow. So water, in humans, it's emotional. Those people that needs to express their feelings. These groups are very effective groups. And usually the others that can perceive them that they are not productive enough. They care themselves too much for themselves too much. So, and they think that other people are careless. The fire people is those that's entertainment and fun and action. The productive people. If we are in an exclusively productive group, what we can have is burnout. We don't care. And they can be perceived that someone that don't care about everything else but by doing things. Value and process is the earth, roots. These are groups of people that need to have these values shared and the process in place. They can be perceived by others as psycho-rigid. And they can also be perceived, they can perceive the others are not serious. And air is those people that are inspiration, have inspiration, creativity. That needs to just do nothing to have new ideas. They can be perceived by others as being lazy. So see, if we are in the judgment role, we can always just judge the others. What I invite you to do is, for example, have a team of testers that have all of these. So hire an artist as a tester that doesn't focus, doesn't know details. See how your testing will improve. So the three things in summary are purpose, create a purpose, share the purpose, call it a shared dream and create an overview effect. Nurture a place of psychological safety and encourage diversity of thoughts. Oh. How we can do that? I love to use this theory U, where I said, well, you know, I was talking to you about change, so changing from A to B. It's not a straight line. It's a deep process that starts with suspending our own beliefs, then redirect our attention or something new that emerges. You know, we're living in a complex world, emergent practices. Letting go of our beliefs, very difficult. Arriving on a tipping point that is called presencing, being really present here and now. How many of you have other thoughts while you're listening to me? This is normal. But if you can be present here and now, you might have awesome ideas about topics that preoccupy you. Then, when you're present, as I said, letting come, new ideas come. You can crystallize those ideas and prototype the change. So change is never linear. Change, long-lasting, resilient change, has a deep way. Now I'm like you to experience that, because we don't have time, and I think I have to close very closely. But when you don't have time, take your time. If there's something you can take out of the stock, just take that. If you don't have time, take your time. 2 minutes, we take 2 minutes and reflect on these two questions about that. Maybe there's something that you didn't like right now here, something that I was saying or something in this room that is irritating you. Think of that and answer to these questions. What does this irritation tell about you? If you step back from the irritation, what do you find out? And how can you move forward with that information? I will let you 2 minutes to answer to your question. Okay. How long were these 2 minutes? Compared to how your own perception? It was fast. Okay. Actually, I cheated. It was only 1 minute and 15 seconds. But it might seem long. Introspection seems to be a very long time. So remember, our perception to time is just a perception. There's nothing more subjective than time. So anything that someone wants to share as finding out? Okay. I'm not forcing you to interact. So this is my last slide, and I think I'm pretty good in timing. Okay. The summary: to create a living, fearless organization. So design a human system as a fearless organization, a living organization. Why would you do it? Because Antifragile is something that is supportive. What will you do it? Create a purpose, create psychological safety, and encourage diversity. How? Using the protocol of the theory U, Otto Scharmer, as a reference. And remember that we are all the designers of human systems that we are part of. You can empower yourself. We do have that choice. And I'm done. Thank you very much.